Hello. Can you guys see me, hear me? Any responses? All right. Oh, great. Okay, so let's begin today's session. Wherever you're sitting, be comfortable in your posture. Keep your back and neck straight and very gently close your eyes. Start observing your breathing. Watch the natural flow of the breath as you are inhaling and exhaling. Make sure that your posture is correctly aligned. Take a few moments to adjust your body. Slowly begin to deepen your breathing. We will begin our session by chanting Om 3 times, followed by 3 Shantis. Inhale deeply for Om. 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 Shanti. 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 Just observe the vibrations. Join your palms together and rub your palms together. Keep your palms on your eyes. Very slowly, while blinking and looking at your palms, begin to open up your eyes and start coming back with a big smile. And namaste to everyone. Let us begin today's session. So guys, welcome to your pranayam class, right? And yeah, so we are going to begin our pranayam journey from today, right? So let's start with today's session. So today's session is mostly going to be an introductory session for you guys, where you understand the meaning of pranayam. You know, pranayam is also quite generally misunderstood as a practice, right? So in the upcoming few sessions, I will be telling you certain concepts and things that you need to know about pranayam so that you guys can practice it correctly. before we begin our practice also, we need to prepare ourselves and we need to understand the concept of what we are doing, right? So in the upcoming few classes, we are going to understand this pranayam. What is this pranayam, you know? So pranayam, P-R-A-N-A-Y-A-M-E, right? This word you have come across a lot of times because this is one of the most practiced limb of yoga, right? Other limbs are not practiced that much, but asana and pranayama are quite popular, right? So when you look at the 8 limbs of yoga, so in philosophy we will cover the 8 limbs of yoga. It's also called ashtanga yoga. So in that, pranayam is actually the 4th limb. Okay. So this practice comes 4th in number, right? And this practice is also, and we can say, an external practice. All right. So it's a part of the external limbs actually. So the practices are divided into 2 parts. One is the external limbs and then the internal limbs. So pranayama is actually a part of the external limbs, right? Where you are still, working on preparing for the internal work. Okay. So now this term can be split in 2 different ways. And I will tell you the proper meaning based on these 2 ways in which we can split it. So one is okay. So this you guys, if you have ever heard of pranayama, this split is the meaning that you actually know of. So prana, P-R-A-N-A, prana, and then yama, Y-A-M-A. And then we have second split that we have, it's prana, P-R-A-N-A, plus ayam, A-Y-A-M-A. So this second split is actually this second split gives you a holistic view into what the practice is really about. Okay. All right. So pranayam. So first meaning is prana plus yama, right? So prana, for now, you guys just write down. It is the vital force. Okay. I will talk of prana in a while. Okay. So prana means vital force. Okay. And then this term yama, it means control. Y-A-M-A, this term means to control. Okay. So now pranayam is seen as what? When you guys also talk of pranayam, or if you have practiced it, you will see that there is some control over the breathing that we are doing, right? So this is the first and general meaning, that we are controlling the prana. Prana is again not just breathing, but I will touch upon it in a little bit. First, let me explain the meaning, right, of the word. But prana I will talk of separately, vastly, right? I will discuss it vastly, right? So one thing is you are trying to control something, right? So you are controlling the prana. And the second meaning is actually the holistic meaning, which is prana plus ayam, A-Y-A-M-A. Ayam, this term means expansion. All right. The term ayam, this means expansion. So not only are you controlling, you are also expanding, right? So First you guys write down, then I will discuss more on this. All right, so now expansion also is a deeper process than just control. Okay, I can control something, right? I can gain control over something, but why am I gaining control? This scope comes up in the second term for the expansion of the prana, right? So you will see pranayam practitioners, they have a long life, no? You have seen this thing. So what are they doing? This prana is what is, it's like you can say, you have limited amount of breaths, okay? So the way in which you take them, it's going to decide how long you're going to, uh, live. We have a bank account balance, no? If it goes to zero, you have no money, right? So in that same way, the prana is not only controlled, we expand its capacity, right? So it's like putting your phone on battery saver, right? Now, if you have 10% battery, that 10% battery will last for a longer period of time. If you don't put it on power saving mode, then maybe battery will run out quickly. All right. So the yogi somehow, through these practices, somehow aims to expand rather than just control. All right. You can control a lot of things, right? But it is the expansion which gives the essence to the practice, right? So you will see a lot of people control the breathing, right? Yes, it's supposed to be done. Initial beginner level person is going to gain control over the breathing, but then the process happens naturally. That is the difference between beginner level and intermediate level practitioner. Beginner level will work on gaining control, because right now you're breathing, you are not aware of it, right? It's going on all the time, right? But initially you try to put effort and gain control, right? But eventually it becomes your natural way, right? So it comes from a point where you're putting effort, and then it becomes effortless. So the expansion takes place of the prana. All right. So let's talk about prana only now. Now, what is this prana? Yeah, everywhere you will listen, prana is talked, right? So this is the vital force. This is the reason why all the things in your body are functioning, right? So like I'm moving my hands when I'm explaining to you, right? So of course there is a biology behind all of this, no? That everything is working in my body, but then there is this energy that is driving it. If you were just this, body, all five elements put together, so there is something which is running, which is making sure the heart is beating, the digestion is taking place, all of your organs are working, right? There is some energy, we say we are low on energy today, or high on energy today, right? So this prana, that is actually the prana in your body, right? Which is giving the movement and the functioning to all of the things in the body, right? And it is subtle, okay? So it is not observable like your body. So my hand I can see, right? But the energy channels I cannot see. I can get an X-ray done and see the arteries, right? But this energy is very difficult to capture. Now technology has come in where some or the other way you can capture a little bit of certain things, right? But mostly this energy you cannot see, right? So pranayam is a deeper practice, no? When you are working on controlling, first you will gain control and then you will go for the expansion, right? So you are going into this subtle process when you do pranayama, right? It is very important to teach it carefully. Yeah, even though it is being taught in all the parts of the world, it's not being taught properly, right? Because pranayama works on a very subtle level in our body, right? And breath is the connection. Okay, breath is one way in which the prana manifests. Okay, so we work on the breathing, right? So a lot of people will say pranayama is breathing exercises. No, it's not breathing. It's not just the breathing exercises, right? It's working on a very, very deep level, which you will get to know as you go deeper into your practice, right? This I cannot, like, I will possibly put a lot of words on it, but you will only understand when you experience this thing. Okay. So prana is something which is present in everything around you. It's not just us human beings which have prana. No? It's present in everything. So science divides things as energy and matter, right? But in Indian philosophy, we believe that prana is present even in non-living things. No? We categorize them as living and non-living things, right? But even non-living things have prana, right? So, like, the clothes you wear, they capture your energy, right? So if you give your clothes to someone else, if they miss you a lot, right, and you give your clothes to them, they will be able to remember you, right? Sometimes, we share our things with the people we love in our life, right? So it's not the things, no, but that thing also has some energy. And then because it comes in contact with you, it captures your energy, right? If you have ever seen, gems and stones, people really believe in wearing gems and stones, no? So it's because the stone has a particular energy which then comes in contact with your energy, the energy that you have, right? So that thing works for you, or maybe pushes that positivity within you. So even stones, everything, the mat that you practice on, always practice on the same mat, why? And don't share your mat with anyone, right? Why? Because it is capturing your practice, right? So these little things you will start becoming aware of as you deepen your practices. At initial level, no one will take care of these things, but as you increase your sensitivity, you know, and this happens only with deepening of practice, you will see everything around you has prana, right? It can be less or it can be more like you, like another human being, right? When you are in someone's company and you feel this person, I feel really good being around this person. No, it's their energy, right? They give a positive vibe. They cannot show you. I cannot show you, I have a positive vibe. But you guys can feel that when you are with someone, right? What kind of energy or feel they are giving to you. That is why, you vibe with certain people, right? So this prana is there in each and everything that is around, right? And yogi has this very deep recognition that no matter how small a thing is, how big a thing is, living, non-living, doesn't matter. Everything has prana in it, and prana is the thing which gives it the, functioning. The functioning takes place because of the presence of prana, right? So this is just a brief thing that I'm telling you about prana. You guys can definitely read up more about what prana is, but it is definitely more than your breathing. So even though you will be regulating your breath throughout the classes, you are working on a very, very subtle level, right? Any doubt so far from this? No? Okay. So now that you have gained a little bit slightly deeper understanding of pranayama, let's look at the various aspects, right? So there are a few aspects when it comes to pranayama. So there are totally 4 aspects, right? Okay, so these terms I will be using again and again in your classes. So today I'm taking that is why I'm taking an introductory session so that these terms are clear to you. So first term for you is puraka, Puraka. Okay. Second one is Rechaka, Rechaka. And third one is your Kumbhaka, Kumbhaka. Pura Kumbhak Rechak, actually, you know. So when we translate in English, we add an A, the letter A. So Pura Kumbhak Rechak, right? Now Kumbhak is of two types. That is why there are four aspects. So I will tell you both of them. So one is your internal. Right? So Antar Kumbhak, right? And then Bahir Kumbhak. All right. So actually, ANTAR, Antar. That became I. So ANTAR, Antar Kumbhak, and then BAHIR, Bahir. So Antar is internal retention, Bahir Kumbhak is external retention. Right? So now this Purak, Rechak, these aspects have special quality, You are inhaling and exhaling throughout your day, all right? But you don't call them Purak and Kumbhak and Rechak, right? So maybe you inhale, after that during the day, maybe sometimes automatically your breath is held and then you exhale, but you're not aware of this thing, right? So whenever you teach also pranayam, you give the instruction of Purak and Rechak, especially, right? So Purak and Rechak, these are ways of inhaling and exhaling, like you can see, right, from the meaning I've written, but they have special quality, right? What is the special quality? First thing, you are aware, all right? So breathing is going on throughout the day, but we are not aware that the breathing is going on, right? So first thing that is added in these aspects is the awareness. Now, even when retention is taking place, you are aware, right? So you are conscious, right? Second thing is slow, all right? So breathing is taking place normally, right? But now you slow down the breathing, right? You go for slower inhalation, slower exhalation. Then your third quality that comes is long. When you slow down the process, you also lengthen it, all right? So now the focus is slow and long, right? Three qualities I have told you. Huh? And last one is deep. So you go for conscious, slow, long, and deep breaths. Like in the beginning of the class, I give this instruction, no? Go for slow, long, and deep breath. So that means you are going into the practice of Puraka and Rechaka, not the normal breathing. Now you are deepening the breathing and you are aware of this deepening, right? Right? So then, what happens after you inhale? Sometimes what you can do is after you inhale, you can hold the breath, right? If I take a breath in, then I can pause, I have control over this. So now in pranayam, you make the breathing voluntary action. It is an involuntary action. No? So breathing has this quality of switching between both these stages, right? If you do not, you are not aware of breathing, it will go on involuntarily, right? But when we do pranayam, we are turning this same action into a voluntary action, right? So now, first when I inhaled, I made it voluntary, right? Slow, long, and deep, right? So I inhale, then I can hold this breath. It's not necessary that I exhale, right? So I'm breaking out of the bond of the involuntary action and making it voluntary, right? So then I can hold while I have inhaled, right? So this is called the internal retention, when you have inhaled and then you retain, right? And then again I go into the process of exhalation, and after I have exhaled fully, again I gain this control of doing what? Stopping, not going directly into inhalation, right? So that retention is called the external retention or bahirkum, right? So as you guys go deeper into the pranayam practices, these retentions are introduced. So we are not going to practice with retention. Retention is a very advanced stage, right? So right now you have such a vast course, right? So it's good because you get a chance to catch the techniques. So guys, when the class are going on, if you have any doubts related to the techniques, clear them, because it's very important for you to get the technique right, right? Apart from that, all of it is going to build upon your practice only, right? In these 28 days, of course, we are going to practice, but after that also, you have to continue your practice, right? Okay. So now these four aspects, right, which are quite important. So these two retentions, they come as a part of what? Inhalation and exhalation. So this cycle of inhalation and exhalation that is going on, you start adding breaks, right? So these two retentions that I have told you of, these are coming as a part of the inhalation and exhalation, these two processes, right? Now there is one other type of retention, all right? It has a very unique name, right? Kevali, Kevali Kumbhak. And I'm telling you about this because this is your final target. So this is why you practice pranayama. This is your, you can see this is the, when you achieve this, it means that the purpose of this practice has been fulfilled, no? Right? So Kevali Kumbhak is the natural kind of retention. All right. So initially you are putting in effort, you are inhaling, holding, exhaling, holding. Right. This process is going on. But after one point of time, the retention becomes natural. There is no inhalation, exhalation, retention. These are not separate. They become one. Right. Like a lot of, river, I think, what do we call them? So a lot of points like river basically merging into the ocean. So many of them are coming from different places, right? And then they merge into the ocean, right? So the separation doesn't remain, right? Inhalation, exhalation, retention, this separation ceases to exist, right? And this is the natural kind of retention. So when when you even sit quietly in a place for a long period of time, sometimes students get afraid, am I even breathing or not? No. So it's actually sometimes you go into the natural kind of retention, not all the time, right? But sometimes the body naturally does not need to breathe, right? So the yogi is doing the pranayam practices, why? To reach this stage, where the retention becomes natural. So that point is called Kevali Kumbha, right? So this is your target. Now you can achieve it by doing 3-4 practices. You can achieve it by doing all your practices. It depends on you, right? Even one practice done correctly can give you this stage, right? You don't have to go for such a long, such a vast variety also. It's not necessary, right? This is the point you have to achieve when you are gaining the control, right? Right. So now this kind of division that I have told you, so this you will see very easily in the in philosophy classes. We will discuss this. So for now you can just write down this name, Patanjal Yoga Sutra. Okay, Patanjal, Patanjal Yoga, Yoga Sutra, Sutra. So when you read the definition of pranayam given by him, so he was a person who divided, who said that inhalation is also a pranayam. He said this thing. Exhalation is a pranayam, right? And then retention is a pranayam, not the two divisions. Two divisions I gave you for better understanding, right? But inhalation, exhalation, retention, and then he gave this fourth pranayam, which is actually the target of pranayam, right? So he described pranayam as being the cessation of the movement of inhalation and exhalation. That is why I will repeat myself again, but that is why you will see pranayam is also otherwise known as kumbhak, right? It is known as kumbhak. It is not called pranayam in some places. It is called kumbhak. Why? Because this definition was very clear that the cessation of the movement of inhalation and exhalation is pranayam, right? And when you naturally reach it, it is Kevali Kumbhak. It's given the special name of Kevali Kumbhak, right? So the more you read, study, you will understand more and more, right? But don't get caught up over there. Only a few classes I will take to explain the theory, but from tomorrow, most likely we will start our practices also, right? So today I'm focusing more on the theoretical aspect so that certain things, they become very clear to you, right? And these are terms that you can add in your instructions also. Puraka and Rechaka is always added in the instruction, right? If you are teaching someone, you should, in fact, add these terms, right? So now let's come to one more important aspect when we come to pranayama, because you need to understand where the work is being done. All right. So according to the yogic concept, the body is not just the physical body, right? So we have five layers, right? When it comes to this body, there are 5 layers. Yoga talks of 5 layers. All right. So this is your from yoga point of view only. All right. They are called the panchakoshas. Pancha, Pancha Koshas, Koshas, 5 layers or sheets, right? So Pancha means 5, and then Koshas means the layers or the sheets, all right? So I will write down their names and then I will explain one by one. Okay, first I will write down all of them, then I will pronounce also for you. So so 5 layers I have written down the names in the chat box. So I will spell all of them and name all of them. So first one is called Anmay Kosh, right? ANNAMAYA. Anmay Kosh. KOSHA. Physical body. All right. Then we have the Pranmay Kosh. PRANAMAYA. KOSHA. Pranmay Kosh or the vital body. Right. Then we have the Manomay Kosh. MANOMAYA. Manomay Kosh. Mental body. Okay. Vigyanmay Kosh is the next. VIJNANA. Vigyan. MAYA. Vigyanmay Kosh. KOSHA. Intellectual body. And then the Anandmay Kosh. ANANDAMAYA. Anandmay Kosh. Right? Bliss body. So how you can represent this is you can draw circles. Okay, so outermost is your physical body. Then circle inside of it is the pranmay kosh. Then little circle inside it is the manomay kosh. Like this, 5 circles you can draw. Outermost circle is your physical body, and innermost circle is your anandmay kosh, bliss body. Mhm. Okay. All right. So I'll start telling you, right? So it's like, have you seen an onion, right? You peel the layers, no? So like that, we also have different forms of bodies, right? And it's nothing. Don't go into, oh, this is this, these extraordinary things are talked about. No, these are just different aspects of your own self, right? That you experience. So like, sometimes you see something on your physical body and you're just like, oh, this happened, no? Right? Then sometimes you energetically feel very down, right? Or you feel very good, right? Then sometimes you experience your mind, thoughts are going on too much, right? Or emotions are going up and down, right? So these are not extraordinary concepts, right? These are different layers which become more subtle. The inner layer is the most subtle, all right? Then it becomes more observable. So physical body. So first layer is your physical body. You can see it. You can touch your hand, right? You can see, right? This is a physical body. This requires you to have food to sustain it, right? Literally means food. Okay, so this is your food body. If you don't eat food, this body will suffer, no? Right? If you stop eating, you will lose a lot of weight, weakness will come in, right? So these all layers are also interconnected. Now, if I stop eating, then of course my energy levels will also go down. Mind will also feel that way. Emotions are going to also get that way, right? So they are not separate from each other, but they can be classified as different sheets. Everything is interconnected, right? So physical body sustains itself on food, right? So you have to, how they say keep your diet okay. Your entire Ayurveda classes are going to be about the diet, your personality, everything, right? So because this body has to be taken care of, right? This is the most observable form you can perceive yourself in, right? Then there is a little bit subtle aspect, which is your pranamaya kosh. So when we do pranayam, we are working on this sheath actually, right? So this sheath is sandwiched between two sheaths, no? Your physical body and then your mental body, all right? So when you work on this middle layer, you are doing what? Impact will be seen directly in two places, okay? Impact will be seen on your physical body, right? And then even on your mind, okay? So when you change your breathing, no, you will see that after the session, your mind is in a completely different state. When you start the class and when you end the class, you are in totally different states of mind. Why? Because you are working on the middle layer, which is the pranamaya kosh. All right. So this is the most important layer for us in our pranayam classes. Okay. In these classes, this is the aspect you are working on. When you do asana, you are doing what? Working on the physical body, but then again, it changes your breathing. If you do some practice very fast, you will see breath immediately changes, right? So immediate impact is seen where? On the pranamaya kosh, because it's closest, no? Right? So in that same way, when you do pranayam, you will see that body is also showing some impact, and then mind is also becoming more and more stable. Like, after pranayam, you will feel calmer. All right. Then comes the manomaya kosh. Manomaya kosh is actually your emotions and your mind. Both of them are included in the mental body. All right. So, sometimes you feel something, right? And then you have that thought, right? And then sometimes you are having that thought and you begin to feel that way. So it happens both ways, no? Right? But sorry. Okay. Mind is again harder to get a hold of, right? The body, you will easily, you will be able to work on it more easily. But mind is harder to work on, right? That is why a lot of people, they don't like doing meditation, no? Because it's working on a very subtle portion of you, right? So manomaya kosh, then this aspect comes in where the mind, the thoughts and the emotions are captured, right? Then when you come to the next layer, that is again more subtle, right? Which is your Vigyanmaya kosh, right? So, sometimes you don't feel you are in the mind, you are in duality, right? But there is a part of you which knows, right? This is the right thing for me, this is not the right thing for me. So that is your intellect. Okay. Again, it's very subtle, right? Thoughts you can still, if you close your eyes, try to, focus on something. You will again be able to understand the mind, right? But intellect is again below, deeper, right? So intellect is the right and wrong, the part of you which helps you to make the decision, right? And it is harder to access. Why? Because it's after a lot of layers, right? So as you do yoga, that is why I told you in the morning also, you start becoming more conscious and aware. Why? Because all of your yogic practices are going to work on all 5 sheets, right? But their impact will be more on one sheet, right? And the sheets which are closer to that one sheet, they will also see an indirect impact, right? But one sheet is worked on the most when you do a certain practice, right? And then you come to the last layer, which is your Anandmay Kosh, the bliss body, right? When you guys sleep, that is when you access this. This is a very subtle form, right? And it is very, very, you know, I've written the word bliss, right? So it's very peaceful out there, right? So sometimes when you guys have a really good sleep, no, that means that you were, you know, more relaxed at that point of time, and you were the Anandmay Kosh is actually, you know, even science is coming to this thing. So when you go for deep sleep, no, that is when this bliss body that is accessed. And you guys would know, if you know, if you have read about sleep also, deep sleep is the most important part, right? That is when the body mind it relaxes properly, right? Before that, all the effort is put into reach that point. So your bliss body is what you can say you access when you go into the deep sleep mode, actually, right? So it's very peaceful and calming for us, right? The more deep sleep we have, the better our sleep is, the more rested we are, right? And all of these layers are around, if you want to use this term, you can. It's around the soul, all right? So the last layer is also not the main thing, right? So there is this energy inside of you, right? That energy is very pure, all right, in nature. So the closer a layer is to that energy, the more energy it captures of that main essence. So if you stand close to the fire, right? So you will feel the heat more, and the more distant you become from that fire, the less heat you will feel, right? So Anandmay Kosh being the closest to this very pure energy radiates most of that. And as you come to the outer layers, the chaos, begins, right? Because we are so disconnected, right? Yeah. And there are different layers which are, then the energy is also not reaching that much. So yogi does a lot of cleansing, right? Removing of blockages, right? And in the pranamaya kosh, we are going to, when we do pranayama, we're going to remove blockages from there, right? So any doubts from any of you? Today we are going to end the session over here. Tomorrow we will talk more. Any doubts from anyone?
What's the meaning of Shat Karma?
I will tell you, Shatkarma is 6 cleansing practices. You will get to know more about it. These are cleaning practices. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
If I have a question to the intellectual body, because if I understand it right, you translate it like with the part where we decide if something is right or wrong. And in the Western psychology, we have like system 1 and system 2. And the one is the intellectual, and the other one is the intuition, what's more in your stomach. And it's totally different like this, because intellectual and intuition are completely different things. But if I understand you right, then it's the same, or because
Yes.
the part in you what say it's wrong or it's right, it's more your intuition and not your intellect, or
Yes. It's actually it's the same over here. The intellect is when the analyzing is going on, right? So this that is more of a mind, like on a mental sheet, right? Intellectual, when I'm saying, of course it is connected, like it is connected to the intuition. It is. So you are
Okay,
correct.
that's not the same. Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Any other doubts from anyone? No doubts? So guys, we'll close today's class. Tomorrow we will continue with all of the other concepts, right? So let's just close the class with 1 Om chanting and 3 Shantis. So sit with your back and neck straight and very gently close your eyes. We will chant Om 1 time, followed by 3 Shantis. Inhale deeply for Om. Om. Shanti. 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 Join your palms together and gently bow down. We will just take a few moments in our day for a sense of gratitude. Begin to rub your palms together. Keep the palms on your eyes. Very slowly while blinking and looking at the palms. Begin to open up your eyes and come back with a smile. Namaste to everyone. I will see all of you tomorrow. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.